Yeah, what's up, everybody? We are in the pre-show. We got our man Terence Cudney, who's running for Massachusetts State Senate, and we were in a very interesting conversation in the before we went live. And I was like, you know what? Let's talk about this in the pre-show. And right at 8 p.m., we're going to start the show, and we're going to get catched up with Terence and his campaign before we go on to the rest of the segment. So, back to and we was talking about endorsements and what's the process of candidates, organizations, and John was wondering like how do they do their endorsements? But John, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. We were talking about the progressive movement, and one of the things that we, as a show, I was giving Terrence some like kind of backgrounds of how our show kind of operates, and we, for me personally, not speaking for everyone, I would say that one of the knockoff on the progressive movement is the endorsement part of it. I don't think they endorse early or enough, but when they do it, it's at the last minute. And sometimes some races we don't. I always said like endorsement doesn't guarantee a win, but it allows at least to become. We know that every race now it becomes nationalized, and every race is just all about money. So sometimes if that candidate does have some popularity at the beginning, potentially it could lead into some at least a better race. And Terrence was asking me, do I think that we're alluding to is this like a backdoor deal type thing? So I was answering that question. I was saying no, it's just more of like, I was using Charles Booker the example, right? I think he was gaining steam as it was, but the big players, what we call the big players, right? Like the most known progressive, they didn't come in until the last minute. Did they play a role? May not, but if they would have got behind the candidates early, could have happened. We got Texas tomorrow going in. I think some candidate did get endorsement early. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out. So that's what I was trying to get at, Terrence.
And I was curious, Terrence, what do you think about like how like let's say you were a candidate, let's say you AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, like what do you think their process or what would be your process for endorsing up and coming challengers?
So you mean as if I were an incumbent, or someone endorsing me as a challenger?
Give me both ways. Give me yeah.
Yeah. So as a challenger, I think like a lot of it is the question of like, well, does this help me get voters, or could this lose me voters? Right? Is this the candidate in my district? Like obviously, so Seth Moulton is my rep in Congress, and you know, we might not share certain views, and our district shapes are different, and things like that. And so, I'd have to think pretty hard about like, does his endorsement help me or hurt me? I don't know how often we see, folks kind of reject endorsements when they're given. I feel like, alluding to the backroom dealing kind of bit of it, there's that conversation, I imagine, the back and forth of like, okay, well, all right, well, I want to endorse you, but I'm concerned about how it might affect your race. Are you on board with, being endorsed and that sort of thing? So that's kind of why I was starting to allude to that when I was talking with John earlier. But yeah, as a challenger, I think I have to like consider that. I have to think through, does this endorsement help me or does it hurt me?
That's interesting because like as an outside looking in, Terrence, like if you got an endorsement from Seth, I would automatically think, okay, what backroom deal did Terrence do to get this guy's endorsement? Because he is definitely not a progressive. And so I'm thinking from the outside as a leftist looking in is like, shoot, do I trust Terrence? Right? I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
But
right.
But from if I was in your position though, where that would look like if I'm trying to as a candidate running for office, how I would think is I want to build coalitions. You can't always win on just the progressive vote, period, and that's it. You have to build a coalition between you have your progressives and maybe you pull off like some 5% of normies. Normies being people who watch CNN, MSNBC, they don't really, watch online news like we do. And even maybe if your district is red, maybe pull 5 people from the right, like literally from the right that would normally vote Republican, right? So in that sense, you might, or let me speak for myself. I might say, maybe I want Seth's endorsement, depending on the type of full-throated endorsement, that I could at least bring in some of his coalition. Not everybody, but it's all about percentages. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think for my part, I'd want to be transparent about why I'm accepting or rejecting the endorsement. Let's assume, that if we're rejecting the endorsement, then the endorsement doesn't go forward in the first place. Let's assume, that we're accepting the endorsement. It's because, I see my district as a very independently minded kind of populist district. And so there might be, some issues that I think that I could work with Seth Moulton on between the state level and the federal level. And while, I consider myself very much a leftist, and he, I think it's fair to say is a very progressive. We'd have to have, I want to have that conversation, and I want to tell him from the outset, I'm going to be transparent about why I'm accepting this endorsement, and it's for XYZ reason. It's because I see, a pathway to build policy together on XYZ issue.
All right. So now I'm going to ask you the reverse question, Terence. If you were, let's hope that you get elected, right? When you get elected, State Senator Terence Cudney in Massachusetts, and you get a lot of clout. Now you're going on all these different, you're going on Rising, you're going on Breaking Points, Revolutionary Blackout Network. By the way, okay, I don't know if that's public yet, actually. But yeah. You go on all these different shows and you got a lot of popularity. Now in the next cycle, everyone's emailing you and say, "Hey, Terence, can you endorse me?" What will you be factoring to give your endorsements?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be frank, like part of me still has to be concerned about my next election if I want to get elected. I'm not the kind of guy, I barely consider myself a politician. I'm an aspiring politician for the people. That's the way I see it. But if I were to be a politician, right, I'd have to consider how that affects, how my endorsement affects how people see me in my district, right? That's just being real about it. But on the other side of it,
if you endorse Hillary for 2024 or something like that, that's what you mean,
right? Yeah, like that would come with some repercussions. That would come with some repercussions,
go ahead.
But like on the other side of it, yeah, I need to think about, like, in terms of who I'd endorse. Again, it's coalition building. It's who do I think I could be building coalition with for when they're in office. And I think you probably have to take into account like their prospects, like how likely they are to win. But for me, that's less important than, like, does this build coalition? Can I build coalitions with people that might not be in office, right? And can I work with them on the outside? And that endorsement is part of the building of that relationship. And I think that would be really important, just thinking hypothetically about it.
I think, Terence, there's also the pressures because you're going to naturally join a coalition or a caucus, right? When you get into the state legislature, and even if you build relations with people at the higher levels, they're all going to come and say, "Hey, Terence, hey, we're all endorsing this person," right? Even though you might know that, let's say candidate A, we're all endorsing candidate A, but you might know candidate B is more of a leftist, more of a radical, that somebody closer to your heart, that's going to be like a pressure now. Like, do I go with the people I'm working with that I build coalition in office, or do I go with the person who my heart speaks to? And maybe the people, if you continue going on, and that's what I want to promote, candidates continue to go on independent media on YouTube, because there'll be people that's holding you accountable as well. Like, what do you think about that type of scenario?
Yeah, I mean, that would be tricky, but I think I kind of come back to the transparency bit, and again, this is another part of the reason why I was talking to John about the backroom deals. I was thinking more on like the policy, like once in office, like the dealings that we hear about, that they're trying to make Build Back Better work somehow or whatever, and they're having conversations. For me, at the very least, like, I'd want to be transparent on the outset with what my goals are for going into those dealings, what my deal breakers are, like those kinds of things. Like, I think it's really important just for the sake of my relationship to my constituents to be transparent about why I'm going into this the way I'm going into this, why I'm choosing to go into this when I could, choose not to go into this. Like, I think that that's really important. And I'm sure I have to imagine that there are going to be, times that the equation changes and my calculus has to change. But I think it's really important to be upfront with people about why I'm, entering this negotiation for this bill and what I think I can get, what I'm coming to the table with, at least the outset. And so when it comes to, the potential of being an incumbent and, basically, voting for the underdog, endorsing the underdog when the caucus wants me to endorse, I don't know, let's say a more establishment candidate or something like that. Yeah, I mean, that's a heavy calculus. There's a lot of stuff to think through there of like, do I think I can build something with this guy inside or outside of office? When he might be the underdog and might be he or she might be likely to lose or what have you. Like it's the possibilities, the potential.
Yes, a lot of tough decisions.
Crazy.
Yeah. All right, let me just give a shout out, and we're gonna move on to Ukraine real quick before we start the show in 5 minutes. We'll see how much time we have, but I want to give a shout out to PJ Holly, PJ Neat in the building. PJ Chris is in the building as well. I saw, and PJ or Michael Corcoran is in the building also, and who else we got over here? I think that's everybody so far. All right, guys, Carlito's in the building. What's up, my man? Jumped in here. Live. All right. Yeah, so Ukraine. So I want to go around. I'll give my quick opinion of what I think is going on. I'm a leftist that's pro-peace. So as peaceful as we can resolve this conflict, that's my opinion. And I like the fact that Biden did not escalate when Putin, apparently he put his nukes alertness at a higher alert. And, we could have increased our DEFCON 5 or whatever it is to go to the next level, but he did not do that. So I appreciate that about Biden. And so far on foreign policy, as far as trying not to go to the next extreme. So, for example, I think under Trump, he literally dropped the mother of all bombs when he was president, Donald Trump. And of course, I think that Biden he's been bombing Syria and all these other places where I don't agree with. But in the case of with Russia, where we could have definitely escalated things, I'm glad that he has not done that yet. But I'll go around the horn. Anybody else have any other opinions? Or Terrence, I'll go to our guests. What you think about Ukraine?
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, I think any move to stop the escalation or to move in the direction of de-escalation is a good one. To be honest, I haven't been. I tried to take a step away from the Ukraine stuff because it's just been so toxic. The dialogue online within my community, frankly, just basically. Folks, I feel like I've been called both a pro-U.S. imperialist and a pro-Russia imperialist within the course of like an hour or two, just for, kind of trying to take the middle ground and trying to say like anything to de-escalate, anything to bring this to a swift and least bloody conclusion is the right way to go. But yeah, I think on the limited bit that I've been following about the nuclear escalation, I think not responding in kind was certainly the right move.
Anybody else have any opinion on Ukraine before we start the show in 2 minutes? John?
Well, that's what half the show was going to be about. I mean, with everything going on right now, I figured that's what we'd be talking about the most today.
No, I actually did not have much to talk about. I mean, I don't have a super amount of foreign policy knowledge that I feel to really discuss it like that. And then we also don't have any foreign policy experts on the panel.
I mean, you haven't been watching like 10-second TikToks and become an expert based off of that? Like claim expertise based off of some random person giving you unverified facts?
Oh, man.
Well, I do not. The only thing I don't like about what Ukraine is doing is how they're treating our African brothers and sisters out there.
I do have a clip on that, and I will show it later.
That's definitely something that I have a big issue with. Even when it comes to like, let's just send them money and aid right away. And it's like, they putting why you with blue eyes, you go in first, and everybody else is staying back. And the way that they're treating, our African brothers and sisters, they're totally wrong. I don't think it's getting enough coverage, and definitely not okay with that.
Yeah, now I have a clip, and I thought it was the Ukraine. There's Africans in Ukraine who was there for school, and then they're trying to leave and like try to go into Poland, and Poland is stopping them from going. Is that right? Is that what you're talking about, John? Or there's other stuff?
I think it's that's part of it, but it's also like even when they try and leave as well, like they getting on the train, right? The way that they getting set up to go on the train is just it's just not cool.
It's not cool. All right, let's start. Bring up the music. We're gonna start the show right now. Let's get it going. A minute early. Oh, here it is. 8:00. Yeah. All right. Welcome everybody. This is Case Study QB, and we are the Political Junkies back at it again. And I got my man Bendone, John, Carlito, Izzy, and our guest of the week, State Senator, or soon-to-be State Senator. I'm going to have faith. I'm going to bring it into existence. Independent State Senator Terence Cudney. I know you'll come back on the show after you get elected, right? I hope so.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I hope so. Yeah, so let's talk about you. And before we get into our segments, we have a couple articles that we're going to get into, especially in Carlito's rapid or rundown. And then we got our Twitter videos that we're going to check out and comment on. But I want to talk to Terence about his campaign. Let us know a little bit about yourself and what you, the type of campaign you're running as an independent, the struggles and all the good stuff over there in Massachusetts. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks for having me back on, Case. Happy to join the Political Junkies for a night. This is awesome. My race is going good so far. I just picked up my nomination papers to start gathering signatures about 2 weeks ago now. So starting to, hit the pavement and gather those signatures to get on the ballot. That's the next big challenge. But, I'm running as an independent. I'm on the North Shore. The name of my district is the First Essex and Middlesex District. So I'm in Gloucester, Massachusetts. For those of you who aren't as familiar with the geography, I'm about an hour north of Boston. And, it's going good so far. Just trying to get out there, trying to meet as many people, trying to have as many good conversations as I can have, joining groups on, domestic violence, on affordable housing, on universal health care, and, just trying to get the word out.
Nice. Let me show your website here. Boom. Terence Cudney. Here we go. It's time for new leadership in Essex County, Massachusetts. All right. So, what type of challenges do you have as an independent? That's what I'm curious, because there's the big debate that's been going on recently. I mean, it's been going on for a very long time, but within a lot of the left media that we both respect, Revolutionary Blackout Network and Brianna Joy Gray had a very good discussion on the Call-In app. I believe it was last Saturday, where is the debate between them enter and them versus them exit. Like, should you join the Democratic Party and try to take over as a progressive from within, or do you try to work outside of the party? I was going to say Movement for People's Party, but they have a ton of issues going on right now. There's the Green Party, and then there's the independent, just running as an independent, right? You're running just as an independent, basically, right? Just that's it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I, as far as I can remember, as far back as I can remember, I've always been an independent. I've never been affiliated with one party or the other. Even when, when I was growing up in Colorado, even when the primaries were closed and that meant I couldn't vote in the primary, I thought it was more important to keep my, independence and to kind of view it critically as I saw it, like, see who was the right person to support and, vote my conscience and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, as a result, it only felt natural. It only felt proper. It only felt principled for me to stick to my independent stance. And I think it's pretty fortuitous that I'm running in a district that, is very independently minded, that is interested in looking through issues deeply. And, the way that I see that is, basically they've elected a moderate Republican in one of the bluest states in the country for 27 years. And, as much as I'm certainly not a Republican. I think that's an indicator to me that they're open to, hearing different perspectives, to not just sort of hewing to the Democratic Party line, despite it being one of the bluest states in the country. And so I feel very fortunate that I have the opportunity to run as an independent. But yeah, there are some challenges. I mean, just in terms of gaining endorsements, like we were talking about in the pre-show there, but also in terms of resources, access to resources as an independent. It's a lot tougher. You can't run on actblue.com, with the donor platform there as an independent. I'm using DonorBox, which is an unaffiliated donor platform. I don't have access to the canvassing data that you can get through the state Democratic Party, and so
it's called VAN, right?
Yeah. So I have to kind of build that infrastructure myself, and kind of build that data network on my own. So it's no easy feat, but
and also Terence,
time,
if you don't mind me jumping in, you don't have anybody who try to run as state senator independent before you that you can go to them and say, hey, can you help me out? Maybe give me some pointers. Maybe give me your donor list. Give me your volunteers list. You don't have anybody like that, right?
Not in my district, no.
Okay.
What's the other crazy thing about the race that I'm running is I'm the first to challenge the incumbent in 17 years. He's run unopposed for almost 2 decades now.
Oh wow!
So there isn't a lot of a wealth of sort of previous candidates to kind of tap into. But I have been fortunate enough to talk to some previous challengers to him from way back. So that's been fun.
Cool. I just want to give a shout out to Steve Wolf-Brandt real quick. But go ahead, John.
So no one challenging even from the Democratic side before? He just...
Not since whatever 17, 18 years ago was. I think it was 2004 was the last Democratic the last challenge he had, period. But it was from the Democrats. Yep.
But it's probably an advantage to run as an independent then.
What's that, Carlito?
So it's probably an advantage to run as an independent.
I would argue, yeah. I think there is. I mean, and by the way, that's the other, that's one of the other challenges is so many people are coming to me and saying, if you don't run as a Democrat, you're going to lose. You don't have a shot. And I just heartily disagree. I think there's a lot of room in my district for an independent to run and have a shot. And there are folks that are really just fed up with both the establishment of both parties in my state and across the country, frankly. But in my state and in my district in particular, I think there's a lot of anathema towards the two-party system that we have. And I'm running on a platform to innovate our democratic system, to build top 2 primaries as opposed to the kind of semi-closed primary system we have. I'm open to voting in innovations, whether it's ranked choice voting or star voting. And I'm running to kind of build democracy reform in a way that makes more policies more possible. That makes Medicare for all, mass care is our state initiative in Massachusetts. To make that something that could possibly pass and things like that. But yeah, I could go on, but I'll leave it there for now.
Your district also include Lynn, Massachusetts, right?
It doesn't actually. It's a very sort of strangely shaped district.
Got it.
It runs basically through the middle. It sort of snakes through the middle of Essex County. So Lynn is, I think, a district to my south towards the west. But yeah.
Thanks so much, Steve, for the super chat. $4.99. Appreciate that. I got a question for everybody, and then if we have any more questions for Terence, I want to ask everybody on the panel. I don't think I've ever discussed this with everybody. When was the first time you realized that the Democratic Party or the Republican Party were not the only 2 choices? Like, when did you first realize that? So I'm gonna go to Bendone first.
Like middle school, and like geography class, or
so you
whatever class that was. That talked.
So it was in class that you found out that there was other choices. Yeah. Okay.
The difference is whether or not how many people talk about 3 parties.
Yeah. John.
Say probably like 2002 when I started to learn a little bit more about politics. As like when we grow in Latino household, if we don't get too much into politics, like I remember my mama used to tell me how great Bill Clinton was. And I started reading about it, it's like, okay, he was not that great. Once I started getting into politics, I realized all the different parties that we have. But
I see Rafael Rodriguez said 1992 Ross Perot. So he said, yeah, I'm old. That's funny. Carlito.
Yeah, kind of like Bedon in school. I learned about the other parties before the parties that we have now, and also how the parties realigned, and they're now how they used to be. But the first time, like fellow old man Raphael said, Ross Perot was the first like viable looking candidate that I saw on a large scale.
Oh wow, okay. Terence.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of always knew from a young age, but I kind of discounted it so quickly because I was so bought into the kind of idea that there only really are these two options, and anything else is problematic to cast your vote for. And so, like, taking the question kind of another way, I think when I actually started to consider, well, maybe there's an opportunity for me to think about strategically or in terms of my my project as an actor in the political system, probably was 2016 or so, when Bernie as an independent ran in the Democratic primary and said, okay, I am an independent, but I'm running as a Democrat. That made me start to think, okay, well, maybe he was elected as an independent in the state of Vermont initially. So maybe there is an opportunity to run outside of the duopoly and make a difference that way, even if it's just as a protest vote. A protest vote can be meaningful. So yeah, that's how I'd answer that.
Wow, Izzy.
Yeah, I think my answer is pretty similar to Carlito. Like, learn about it in school, but I think for our generation, Ross Perot, right? He was always the big name that we were kind of exposed to as a third party. We're like, first of all, why does this dude look so funny? And second of all, why is he not running in one of the two parties? So yeah, that was kind of the big exposure there for me.
Wow. All right. So I'll tell, the first time I found out that they were a third party was the first time I voted for a president at the presidential level in college. So I voted for John Kerry. He was the first and only Democrat I ever voted for at a presidential level. And when I went in there to vote for him, I saw on the ballot Green Party, Constitutional Party, what else is out there? Libertarian Party. And I was like, wait a minute, I felt cheated. I'm like, I didn't do my research enough. I don't know these other guys. I didn't know that I had other options out of John Kerry. Otherwise, I would have looked into them. So from then on, that kind of was in the back of my mind, and might be part of the reasons why I really I didn't become political right there. Like, I literally, the extent of my political knowledge was R is for rich people and B is for everybody else. And that's how like detailed my knowledge of politics was at that time. But later on, I became more sophisticated and and progressed from there. But all right,
and I need to do my job and make sure I never let down the fact that who were you campaigning for all over Facebook?
Ron Paul back in the day,
Ron
yeah.
Paul,
Yeah.
You never gonna live that one down in my eyes.
Ron Paul was an independent Republican. I wouldn't even say I was like a Republican. I would say I was independent who wanted him to win at that time. And it was like literally within like a year, I was probably a fan of Ron Paul and I still have a certain amount of respect for him on the foreign policy side, but domestic policy was when Tom Hartman, he's a radio talk show host, progressive, that he used to debate. That's why it's important to platform, quote unquote, platform people and debate them, because that's how he pulled me over from the Ron Paul side into the progressive sphere, by debating Republicans. That's all he used to do. And after hearing him and listening to different arguments, I was like, this guy Tom is making a lot more sense than what's going on over here. So that's what brought me over. But I would definitely give credit to Ron Paul for opening up my political awareness, and then I was able to shift from there. All right. So any other questions for Terence before we move on?
I do want to say one thing about the press, third parties and stuff. It's not necessarily third party, but later on, as I became older, I learned, about Jesse Jackson's run, even though it was, not third party. But I didn't know he came as close as he did. People write it off, but he had a lot of following, and it was the machinations of the parties that took him down because the third independent like Terrence, it's hard for them to run because they always come together to take you down and keep that duopoly going. And Shirley Chisholm, like way before my time, but she was like the first African American to run for the nomination of a major party. That's somebody that I learned about later on that, not their party, but, might as well be because they treated her like one.
Yeah. There's a lot of history behind Shirley Chisholm. So one question that I do want to ask you, Terrence, man, it just slipped my mind. Hopefully, if it comes back to me, I'll come back to it. But
all right, man.
All right. Any other things before we move on? I want to give a shout out real quick to Crowded Crow, who said she admired my work. So I really appreciate that. And much love to you, Crowded. And thank you for joining the stream. All right. So let's move.
Yeah. But real quick, before we move on,
sure.
that came up. How's I know in the past we talked even like, to some candidate that had come in the back before on our show. How's the ballot set up in Massachusetts? Is it pretty straightforward? Or are they going to put you like the New Jersey one all the way to the right where people can't find you?
John, I can tell you right now, the New Jersey ballot is unique to New Jersey. Like nobody else.
So Massachusetts doesn't have that?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Terrence, I'll let you talk on it, Terrence, but we're uniquely horrible when it comes to our ballot. But go ahead, Terrence.
I think once I'm on the ballot, I'm okay. It's just the question of actually getting on there. Yeah, I think they don't make it too weird and too like way off to the side or anything like that. I think I should look more into it. I might want to get back to you on that, but as far as I know, I think it's fairly straightforward.
You'll find out your name is spelled backwards and diagonally.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it has to be read upside down. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, good luck with those signatures. Hopefully, you at least get the first step and get on.
That's right.
Yep. All right. So let's get Carlito. You ready for the rundown?
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Rapid fire.
All right.
So first story. Kitchen appliance maker wants to revolutionize video surveillance. A platform run by the Bosch-owned startup Zena has the potential to transform the surveillance camera industry. Experts worry it is ripe for abuse. By Zach Campbell and Chris Jones at The Intercept. Now this, I've heard of Bosch before from like the power tools, but looking at this story, I was like, wait, what? What are they getting into now? So what's up with this case?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting situation. This is a Zena, like a camera. I just went up to their website real quick, and then this is apparently they have an app store. So the way you guys could think about it is how Apple has their app store, and then Android has their app store. So and any developer can develop an app for that particular device, and then they'll put it in the app store. And people could buy it, or people could use the freeware version of it, or et cetera, et cetera. But this is the issue with the company. They don't vet the developers. So at least with Google and with, Android store and with the Apple store, they make sure that you don't have hackers like trying to steal your information, trying to listening on you, or look at you naked, activate your camera and all this crazy stuff. They straight let anybody just go on there and develop, and just they leave the responsibility up to the developer. So that's the most problematic thing that this site. So before I move on to any more information, what you guys think about that?
Yeah, another thing about it that I found interesting is that a lot of times you have like with other companies, you got the cameras and you got the server somewhere where all the data crunching is done and the videos are stored. You could basically have an app, and each little camera is its own little thing on its own. So the developer could basically, do facial recognition potentially on something, and do whatever with that data, and Bosch wouldn't know.
Yeah, well, that's another thing, because you're leaving it up to the developers to come up, and you're giving them basically like an API, where I don't want to get too technical, but basically you're giving them access to all the integrals of the device. And then as a developer, you can come up with your own open source. Well, not most likely you're not going to have it open source. You're going to have it privatized, but you can manipulate the camera however way you want to manipulate it. So, for example, they came up with a recognition of the first face mask detection app within 2 weeks of COVID pandemic beginning, right? So, like, that's crazy. That's nuts that you're not at least vetting this type of apps and all these other things. It's nuts.
Well, yeah, but that's I mean, I'm a technical person who does
Yeah.
not have any connected devices in my house, because I know for a fact that a lot of these IoT devices, these Internet of Things they call it, all
Yeah.
these cloud connected, this, the plug, the light bulb, the fridge, the whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand it's completely convenient, but you also have to understand that all your data is getting sold. You have no idea where it's going. Your devices on your network are completely insecure. They're open to attackers constantly, and nobody really thinks about that. So it's not just that they hack your light bulb and now they can change your lights. Well, that light bulb is also connected to the same network as your phone, which is connected to the same network as your computer.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
all they
I
have to
guess-
do is hop around and
Izzy, so it's all going to the cloud. That's where it's going. If you didn't know.
I guess they know my whole life story because I have everything you listed.
Izzy wouldn't come into my house with the amount of connected devices that I have.
not
You should
with my
have seen
phone.
Bedon's face as you were talking, Easy, because at first it was like, huh? What? Like, nah. Oh man. Like,
Hold on, let me check
Oh,
right
man,
now.
I'm
I'll
seeing
check
now.
right now live.
He started. I was like, okay, I got that, and he kept going. I was like, I got that. He's like, I got that. I got that. I got everything he listed, and he was like, oh, it's convenient.
And
So
why
I'm like, yeah.
and why you guys think I don't show my face on this show? Because all you guys are connected
I
trying to
have
steal
47 connected devices right now.
No.
I'm on-
Oh my! To the
Wow.
internet? Oh
To the
wow!
To my Wi-Fi.
That is crazy. And well,
I got-
you'll
I
be
got more than
very
that.
interested in what I'm about to say. There were hackers who were able to view footage from prisons, hospitals, factories, police departments, and schools, among other places.
No.
And they just broadly were being surveilled, and how little care is put into place to secure the platform. So basically, the whole point of the hackers doing that was to show how easy it was to hack these devices and to use the app store to hack these devices and just get access to everything.
Yep.
Wow.
So thanks.
Go check
Yeah.
out in the chat. PJ Chris said my Alexa turned on by herself and asked me yesterday if I wanted to hear the music my husband was listening to in his car.
What?
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So what if he was listening to something like she didn't even like
But you'll find out.
watching? What if he was watching something? Like, I'm not gonna get too crazy.
I don't know,
on what people be watching.
Your recently viewed shows on Netflix.
My Google randomly just be like, sorry, I cannot answer that question right now. Without me
Well,
asking
I think it's bad, right? When your kids know how to say, "Hey Google." Do something.
Yeah.
Your rap says Alexis a snitch.
Exactly. Like Alexa might bring up, "Hey, your husband was watching this. This is a suggested footage of video of what your husband was watching. Do you want to watch this also?" And then they're snitching on whatever it is. Yeah,
Black Mirror is here.
Pretty soon, Alexa's gonna be like, "You want to know where your husband is? He's at this location."
It's 9 p.m. Do you know where your husband is?
Terrence, you got any devices in your apartment?
So we have a smart speaker, but it's not Alexa. Yeah, so I'm kind of on Izzy's page on this. So I actually, for political junkies that don't know, in my previous life, I was in the tech startup world as a product manager. So I was managing the developers that were building. We focus on my first two startups were in conversational AI, so that's like Alexa, Google Now, Siri, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's scary the way that these things are built. They're. I mean, honestly, if you have a phone, you're already you have a
That's
smartphone.
very true.
You're already you're done.
That's very true.
Your dad is already being sold.
Izzy, what you think about that? What are you doing to protect yourself from your phone? Like, do you put it in a box that you seal it in?
He has the Obama phone.
He will tell you he has this great phone made by Google called the Pixel
Oh,
6.
geez. Yeah, all right.
Do
How do we cut off
anything.
his mic? All right, stop talking. No, Terrence is 100% right. Yeah, there's only so much you can do, but at least I can choose which companies I trust with my data, quote unquote trust. Obviously, I don't trust any of them with my data, but
Yeah.
I will, give up that convenience. But when you're talking about Bosch allowing their app store to whoever developer that they don't even vet, and they're not even looking at the software from a security perspective, that people are doing that with their devices all the time and they don't even realize it. So, okay, yeah, do I have an Android? Yeah. Does it listen to some stuff? Yeah, but I'm gonna have to allow Google that trust for now. But at least I'm not opening up myself to a whole bunch of other people that I don't even know too.
Alex said he has a Freedom phone.
Freedom phone, yeah.
Remember when we covered that? Oh my God, that phone was. Oh my God.
What was the Freedom phone? I don't remember that.
It was a phone advertised for Trumpers. A lot of talk was going around with the Twitter and the platform and blah blah blah. And the Freedom phone was supposed to be kind of like an answer to that, but it was basically like, I think I looked it up, and it was basically like a rebranded phone that I saw somewhere else. And it has everything you could think of. You basically opt into getting Twitter and everything else on it anyway.
Wow.
Like you just get a.
It was like selling your data too. It was like off the rip. To turn on the phone, it was like you got to sell.
Yeah, it
you have
wasn't
to accept the
secure
term.
at all. It
Wow.
wasn't. I mean,
I'm
it's
not
freedom.
surprised.
I don't know, freedom to send your money and your data. That's about it.
I'm not surprised. Then you heard about I think it's called Truth, something that Trump came out with his own Twitter.
Truth
app.
Social.
Is it True Social?
Didn't it
True?
crash?
Yeah.
It crashed.
Yeah, and it crashed, but I'm sure he's gonna be selling people's data as soon as they fix it.
And they said there was going to be no deplatforming there, and they're already banning users.
Yeah. Oh wow,
First day.
first day. All right, Carlito, let's.
All right, next story
Yeah.
from our friends at the Internet again. Use of controversial phone cracking tool is spreading across federal government. Celebrite's extensive federal sales, commerce, and other Israeli phone spying firm NSO Group falls under federal sanctions by Mara Vistendal Assam Biddle. So now that Terrence mentioned about his background, I'm not surprised he picked this story. And NSO has been in the news lately. So what do you got to say about this story?
Yeah, can we actually read the first two paragraphs because it gives you a lot here? So I'll read it out aloud for you. So investigators with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service frequently work to thwart a variety of environmental offenses, from illegal deforestation to hunting without a license. While these are real crimes, they're not typically associated with invasive phone hacking tools. But fish and wildlife agents are among the increasingly broad set of government employees who can now break into encrypted phones and siphon off mounds of data with technology purchased from the surveillance company Celebrite. Scroll down a little bit more to the second paragraph. Yeah, thank you. Across the federal government, agencies that don't use Celebrite technology are increasingly the exception, not the rule. Federal purchasing records and Celebrite securities documents reviewed by The Intercept show that all but one of the 15 U.S. cabinet departments, along with several other federal agencies, have acquired Celebrite products in recent years. The list includes many that would seem far removed from intelligence collection or law enforcement, like the Departments of Agriculture, Education, Veterans Affairs, and Housing and Urban Development, the Social Security Administration, the U.S. Agency for International Development, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So that's like a crazy, number of agencies that you wouldn't think are basically, hacking into people's phones, ostensibly to for purposes of law enforcement. But yeah, this is a real this is a real scary proposition. And by the way, what's crazy about this is like product creep. We talk about this in the tech startup world all the time, like just like the way that your technology kind of grows in a certain direction that you might not have initially thought of. So the first product they actually came up with was a tool to migrate contacts from one cell phone to another in the 1990s, and they've basically blown up into this. They wouldn't call it. It actually says in the article they don't call it a spyware company, but that's pretty much what they're doing.
Man, Do you know? 'Cause I think I heard. I don't know if this is the same exact app, but I heard about an app from Israel, and this is an Israel company also.
I think it was
Right?
acquired by someone outside of Israel,
Oh,
but yeah, I think it was started as an Israel company.
like
Yeah.
basically, there's spy tools that these company created, and they were like selling it to like Saudi Arabia. I think that's part of the way they monitored Khashoggi, or the reporter that they eventually killed, and they're just using it on also prime ministers, like, or the heads of states of other countries. And like this is so a normal person can't buy this, I would assume, right? This, you would have to be
Yeah,
part
I
of
think
a
it's
company.
mostly federal agencies,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think they're basically they've started to face just like the slightest bit of blowback, so they might be
Okay.
trying to find ways to sell to private companies and do some more sketchy stuff.
Maybe
Wow.
sell it to Chris so she could spy on her husband.
Oh, BJ Chris in the chat. But I wonder, see, this is something that I thought that it's on Google or Apple to make sure that their phones are secure. Like, shouldn't this be like an alert to them that they have to do something more? I would
No,
think, right?
this is the purpose of this technology is it's to break through all that encryption.
Oh,
It's to break through
wow.
all that stuff. For the purposes of law enforcement. And it says later in the article, a small quote: Celebrite should only be used by competent law enforcement agencies with proper oversight and screening, and only for more serious crimes. But it also goes on to say, like, this has meant very little on the ground. They're just doing this without any oversight, and people don't know that they're technically or presumably could be violating the law, and that they don't have a recourse, that they have a recourse to say like this is unfair search, and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
I mean, there's no way they could even pretend to regulate that, because we know, with cops, for example, they use their surveillance technology to spy on their significant others already, or to spy on other, if they have somebody going to internal affairs, to spy on them. So there's no way they can, regulate that, and who uses it once they bought it, and they really don't care. They're just making the money.
You guys remember when the FBI or the federal government went to Tim Cook and was like, "Hey, we need to crack into this Apple phone,"
Yep.
and he said, "I'm sorry, no, that's the whole point of our privacy and our encryption is that you can't crack it." And they like wanted them to create a backdoor, which of course will create a backdoor for anybody. You can't just create a backdoor that hackers won't find. Like, so did that change all of a sudden? They
Well,
opened
in
the
that story, eventually the government say, you know what, never mind, because they found
Yeah,
out.
we figured it out.
Yeah, yeah, probably from
We're good.
right, or whatever. So it's like,
Okay.
okay, you don't have to. We got it.
So let me talk to Izzy about this. What's your opinion on this this stuff right here?
Yeah, I hadn't read the article, but I would be interested to learn more about how they're doing what they're doing. Celebrate in terms of how they're doing their either if they're breaking decryption or encryption, I should say, or if they're just using general like spyware tactics. I'm not really sure. I'd be interested to learn more about that. But it just kind of goes to what we were talking about before. I mean, you have to be super secure with your data as much as you can be. Obviously, not everything is under your control, but the more healthy decisions you make with your online presence, the better off you'll be in the long run.
So you're saying that I'm screwed because I have all this technology at home?
You guys are all screwed. First of all, you're selling all your data to Amazon anyway, and who knows what they're doing with it.
Oh no, I don't do anything with Amazon. All my stuff is Google. So
You have the Amazon cameras, you liar.
no, I don't. I have the Nest. I have the Nest
got it.
camera that are owned by
But
Google.
they weren't Amazon.
Let me talk to your wife.
Yeah, I had the Ring cameras, and then Amazon bought them. So
Yep. But then also under Trump, they changed a law to allow your ISP to now collect the data of what websites you're going to at the tap. Like at your modem, they can record what websites you're going to, and they can sell that data. And I
Well,
don't
so
think
that's
the
why you got
Democrats.
to use. So there's two things you could do. Well,
Yeah.
there's
Go ahead.
there's two things you could do for that, I guess. One is a VPN. Use a VPN from home.
Yeah.
That only gets you so far, though. There's another technology you can turn on in most well, I don't know about most browsers, but there's a few browsers that do it, called DNS over HTTPS. It's just a typical checkbox feature that you can find, at least in Firefox, because that's what I use. That will basically make sure that between that and a VPN, there's no way for your ISP to know what websites you're visiting.
Oh, all right, so guys, that's your guys and gals. That's your tip.
Cybersecurity tip of the week.
Tip of the week from our man Izzy, DJ
Ben,
Izzy in the building.
Shut off
All right.
all your devices from now on.
Yeah, go ahead, Carlito.
All right, next story. Former NYPD labor boss Ed Mullins surrenders on Fed charges. He took $1 million from Sergeants Benevolent Association, but Molly Crane Newman, Cree Somerset, Rocco Paras Candola, Graham Raymond, and Thomas Tracy at dailynews.com. So if you can imagine, this guy, you've probably seen a lot of his, news clippings or whatever, when it comes to like these criminals and Black Lives Matter and all kinds of stuff. And come to find out, he's the criminal, stealing from his own cops, the head of the cops union, stealing from the cops. The hypocrisy is unimaginable. But then again, you guys know how I feel about cops, so it's expected.
Yeah.
It's crazy how he did like the things that he did. Like he would make like a $45 charge and then charge like $845. So then pay the $45.92 and then keep the $800 for himself. That's like he would do crazy things like that.
Wow. Now the question is, I wonder if the police going to punish him for this. Like, or should he should go to jail, right?
Well, it says that this crime carry a maximum sentence of 20 years, but he's already out on a $250,000 bail. So,
yeah, for somebody that talks about tough on crime, this guy shouldn't be out on bail at all. We know people that do far less get far more time. They might not even get bail. And this guy, being a cop, should be held to a higher standard. So he should get twice the time.
I agree with that. And look, some a black woman tried to vote after she did her time, and they put her back in jail, unfortunately, for saying that as a felon you can't vote. And she didn't know that. The judge initially didn't know that.
Her probate officer signed off to let her vote.
Signed off, like is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So the case, it was that thanks to going viral, they revisited that case. But one thing that I learned is that possibly the reason that they made that mistake, it was because she was running for mayor. So it might have been a way to get her off the ballot.
That's probably what it was. Well, I did not know that she was running for mayor. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting.
And that's the rundown, baby.
And that is the rundown. So let's go. I'm going to go straight to this clip that John first brought up. Let's see. And this is unfortunately it's a clip. Let me see if I can play it. You guys can hear it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
These are the black community. So let me read this first before I play the video. So this is Africans in Ukraine, the community of Africans in Ukraine stranded at the border, much of them women and children. This is happening now. The lady in the video is holding a 2-month-old, and it's 3 degrees Celsius outside. We are in search of aid and hostels, or basically like a hotel.
We are not allowing any black people to enter inside the gates. We are all here. It's only Ukrainians that they are allowing in. Even the ones with kids, they're not allowing them in. Really happy here. For days, and nobody's asking any questions. Only Ukrainian women and kids they are allowing in through these gates. All the places blocked and all are full of blacks. From different communities, from different countries. Nobody's talking to us.
So is that? I'm trying to understand. Is that
They're not allowing.
Is that's a border to get into a different country?
That looks like it looked like they're trying to like just get into like an embassy though or something like that. But I've heard they were trying to go into Poland and that Poland wasn't letting them in either. But I don't know if this might be a gate to get into Poland.
Yeah, my understanding also is that they're trying to leave from one city to, I think there's a city, again, they were leaving one city to another city where everybody's kind of going to. Yeah. They're still not allowing them to get on the train. They're only allowing Ukrainians first and then everybody else.
Poland. Yeah.
So that's what this one says. Ukraine border is closed and people can't cross to get into Poland. After being stranded by trains, Africans making their way by car told there's no exit for them. Yeah.
So I mean, is this this sounds like a Poland issue then, right? Like
Yeah,
Poland is where we need
exactly.
to be directing our anger at then.
That's what I think too. Yeah. All
Well, I
right.
think
So
there's another clip where I think it was them trying to get onto the trains, and I think some of the Ukrainian police was letting everyone else.
Yeah, I thought I saw that too.
All the women and men that were not Africans to go in.
oh wow. Discrimination and racism is everywhere. Unfortunately, that's the moral of the story. I thought this. Go ahead.
You know what's the first thing I found myself thinking of when I saw this was, I mean, this might be controversial, but I'm going to go for it. I was thinking how if this were to happen in like let's say there were some civil war that exploded out, God forbid, in our country, and we were trying to leave, north to Canada, and I just found myself thinking, wouldn't there be ICE agents or something like that? I could see an agency like ICE at the border turning away people of color and saying, real Americans first. I could see that very same thing happening in our neck of the woods. So, it goes to show there is a systemic global problem at play here. Not to downplay anything about what's happening. Obviously, what's happening at the border there is terrible to these African people. But it just, I don't know. It feels like this is an everywhere problem as well as a Ukraine problem.
100%.
We've talked about it on this show a number of times in the past where, even me, like I'll personally admit I'm guilty of it, where I'll idolize certain like the Nordic countries, or just like a lot of European countries, and how well they do things, how liberal they are with their social policies, and but when it comes to people of color ending up there, like you think of Sweden, you think of Norway, you think of how great those countries are, right, in terms of their social policies, but are they always that lenient when it comes to people of color, or is it, I mean, are they lenient to the people coming in who are people of color, so sometimes it feels like they have these policies because it's like it's all, we're all white, we're all good, let's take care of each other, but as soon as you start introducing something that kind of breaks that mold, things change a little bit. So that's why we have a lot of the problems here.
You don't need to wonder, Izzy, this is 100% true. That's the case. So I read about this in I don't remember the countries right now, but there's northern countries, and we like their policies, social democracies, but they have some right wing, parties and individuals that are getting into government saying, you know what, we need to curtail how much you're giving, how much you're helping, and specifically because of the immigrant population growing in those countries. And I've seen some videos on YouTube about people living abroad, people of color living abroad, even Americans, like Black Americans living abroad, and some of the things they experience. And you're 100% correct. It does happen that when they start getting an influx of immigrants, they don't feel as generous with their social policies.
Yeah, and then real quick, just to circle back on this, it's like, I know we say we may want to put our anger towards Poland, but maybe, because the Ukrainian on the train didn't allow any, of these students from Nigeria and other country to get on the train, to get to the border when everybody else was getting there. They were, Poland's like, we may be maximum capacity, right? Because they told them, you're on your own. You're not getting on these trains. And then when they get there by foot or car, say, sorry, borders closed or something. So yeah, totally, I agree. Like, should be angry within, but the way also that Ukrainians handle this is not the best way either. And also, I think if you were looking at, to your point as well, I forgot who it was. It was this journalist that was talking about the issue there, and they're like, oh yeah, we have a lot of, I feel bad because we have a lot of like European with blue eyes dying. Do you guys saw that?
Yeah. I think that was the president of Ukraine. I think that said that, right?
Oh, was it the president?
Oh, yeah. Was it? Oh wow,
that would have been a hotter take. I thought it was like some reporter lady.
I thought it was a guy. It was a guy. It was a reporter. I thought he was a journalist.
That he was saying that I feel sympathetic because of the blue eyes. People are dying in Ukraine. It was something like that, like the blue eyes, blonde hair, blue eyes. And I thought it was but maybe I don't want to get that wrong. Then don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, I did hear that take though. I did hear.
since you did take it there, one of the things that I noticed and other people made me realize is that when you know people are attacking, bombing different countries that are predominantly not white, we don't have the same kind of response and everybody coalescing in support that we have for Ukraine. And makes me wonder, it's like, okay, at first is Putin was, especially Republicans like Putin, like, oh, this great guy that's expanding, he's just making Russia great again and whatever. But then when the backlash came, they kind of fell back. But I think it's partly or mostly because it's like, okay, they're attacking this other white country. If it was, some country in Africa, will we have the same, coalescence of people support? And and this is a good thing that one thing I heard that Canada likes expediting I guess refugee visas for people from over there, which is good. And I didn't get a chance to look, but I was like, okay, have they how have they done this that much for like other people from other refugees from other war-torn countries? They probably have, but it made me wonder because it kind of like, okay, that was quick. They were quick to make that change in their immigration laws just for them. So it's the cynic in me, but it's cynic because it's reality most of the time.
I want to bring up this tweet real quick that you might not be able to see it because it's small, but it says, "Want to know the only difference between you and a refugee? Luck."
Facts. Big facts.
All right. So with that said, I want to show this clip from Morning Joe that I clipped the other. Was it this today? Yeah, I clipped this today.
Well, Admiral, let's start with you. You obviously you know NATO better than any of us. It's extraordinary what NATO countries are doing, but let's just talk about yesterday. The historic moves made yesterday. You could talk about Germany now talking about making it part of their constitution that over 2% of their GDP has to go to military. That's something that is unthinkable politically in Germany just a week ago. Sweden now off the sidelines. You look at the Swiss talking about doing something they just don't do. They're always seen as a safe haven.
So I just wanted to play that. I don't have to play the whole thing, but that first part is good enough. So you got the Swiss who usually remain neutral. And I'm, right as of right now, the narrative is we got to stop Russia from this bombing and trying to take over Ukraine, which, like I said at the beginning or in the pre-show, I forgot where that I'm for peace. I'm for less people dying. So if we could stop Putin from killing more people, however that is, let's do it. But Swiss, who usually stays neutral, is now buying in armaments. Then you have Germany's considering 2% of their GDP to go towards the military. Something that I always thought of was like, man, I wonder what if we said, hey, we're going to dedicate a certain percentage of our GDP to social spending or social programming to help the homeless and to Medicare for all and all this stuff, and like put it in the Constitution. Like, how can we prevent the Republicans or the right wing, from trying to? Because right now, the biggest public program that gets defunded is schools. Right, schools always get books that they have from 10 years ago. They don't have the latest computer equipment. And I'm like, well, what if we have like something in the Constitution of even in every state that says a certain amount of money has to go? Here's the opposite. It's like 2% of the GDP they want to dedicate it to military spending. Like, what you guys think?
I think it's mostly symbolic, though. I think in the case of Germany, right? Like, everybody in Europe is basically coming together and saying that Putin, nobody supports you here, and here's how we're going to show that. Nobody's dropping bombs yet. I don't see Germany jumping into this war at all anytime soon. So I think to me it's mostly symbolic. Like I said before about wait, hold on real quick. Just like I said before about Europe, they're already taking care of their people. So if they want to dedicate, I'm not saying it's okay to dedicate 2% of your GDP to the military, but they're already taking care of their people in ways that America is nowhere close to doing. So here we are spending 700 plus billion, 800 billion a year on defense, and we're not taking care of anybody. If they want to do the symbolic gesture and say 2% of the GDP for military, because we already have universal health care, I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. What were you gonna say, John?
Well, I was going to take a different take on that. I don't think it was symbolic at all. I think it's, if you look at it, if you, what is it, like 68%, 70% of Germany gas come from Russia. And I don't think the United States is very happy about that. And the United States military does spend a lot of money to protect Germany and stuff like that. And they may be looking at more of, can we put 2% of our money in military in case, the US or something decide not to give us enough money to protect us or not. I don't think the US is very happy with that deal that Germany made with Russia and the gas line. I
Well,
think
I agree.
that's the take.
what I wonder is, where are they going to spend that money? What companies, what countries are going to be selling them those weapons?
That's a good
You know,
question.
that's a money maker right there.
That's why I'm an advocate for if we get a progressive to become president, like they find a way to rejigger our defense budget, because our defense budget always passes. Like Republicans and Democrats vote for it, like 90% of the time. Like everybody votes for it, right?
The
So what if we
Democrats
could
always give the military more money
more
than
money,
the
right?
Republicans, and the military hates Democrats.
Exactly.
And
So
you
my
get it.
point is, what if we can sneak in a hyperloop into the military budget? We could sneak in, like, I don't know if we could do Medicare for all in the military budget, but like some of the
Nah, no
things
way.
that we care about, Green New Deal, certain programs we could sneak in there and hopefully decrease. Like for the life of me, I can't understand how. Well, I do understand, but it's like we got out of one of the biggest theater of war, Afghanistan, apparently, from Biden, and the budget's still going up. It's
Budget will always go up. The defense budget in this country will always go. It's guaranteed like taxes.
And
I mean, it's where our tax money goes.
the most frustrating part of it is that it's not even, a lot of time it's not even going to the soldiers. It's just going to these companies.
Yes.
You have,
good
you
point.
say you can't see how many homeless soldiers we have in
Yeah.
the United States. It's just like, with a budget like that, there should never be now one single soldier that is homeless with that kind of
Yeah.
budget. And you constantly see it. And the people that are making money is those big defense contractors. They are the one that ranking everything in. It's not going to the soldier itself.
100%. All right, let me show.
Let me sneak this in, because this is article that I wanted to bring up, but I didn't.
Okay.
It was going to be first of all, it was actually a study that the U.S. Army did like in 2010 or something like that. But it was about climate change and how climate change basically is a national defense issue because of all the wars, conflicts that it could create, and it has created over time. But then I thought about that study because Germany and the gas they're getting from Russia, instead of this 2% into the military, they should dedicate a higher percentage to green energy, so they don't have to depend on one gas from a country that could be hostile, and two, just fossil fuels that help the environment at the same time. And it's something that the U.S. military has said, that climate change is a national defense issue because of all the conflict that could have. And here we have another tie-in where Russia kind of controls some countries because they depend on them for their their energy.
All right, we got like 8 minutes left. I'm sorry, Terrence, you want to say something? I don't want.
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, a lot of this money going to climate change is much better money spent. I would say, first of all. The other thing I couldn't help but say, talk about arming foreign insurgents. It's almost like I feel like we've had problems when we do this before. Oh wait, Afghanistan. Maybe let's spend a little less of our money sending weapons to insurgents. If we want to be pro peace, if we want to be pro harmony, maybe let's not do that. I'm just gonna go on out on a limb here.
So I'm gonna send you a tweet. I want you to show that he sent, so you can showcase.
You want to send me a tweet? You said.
Yeah, that's exactly what what Terrence was saying.
Oh, okay, I see it here. But while I bring this up, I'm going to play this video. This one is dedicated to my man Izzy. You'll see why.
Tomorrow night at the State of the Union message, our president should stand up and say, we're going to build Keystone. We're going to build more. Reverse it.
Yep.
Reverse it. Now, he won't do it, but that's what he should do in America's interests and the interests of the world.
The majority of Americans would support that.
Absolutely, they would.
Because our gas prices would go down, and all of those people who used to work for Keystone that are out of work now would have jobs.
It would signal that we're prepared to go back and produce energy that the world needs.
Right. Jen Psaki is pushing renewable energy to stop the dependence on foreign oil. Shouldn't Biden say, let's produce more oil here in the U.S., then we can supply oil to our allies?
Yes, of course. That's what should be done now. Maybe a temporary hold on the Green New Deal, a temporary hold on rejecting fossil fuels, because we really need them now.
And that would make the environmentalists and all the progressives happy, maybe, or at least give some sort of a compromise. I will focus on that later, but right now we're in dire straits.
You will never get the environmentalists to agree to using more fossil fuels. Just in the short, they will never agree to it.
What will he
it's
say
religion on their part.
What?
I'm so confused.
Just to let Terrence know, Izzy's like the environmentalist on the panel. Like he's the one that cares the most. And the most pessimistic, I think, about the planet healing.
Think?
So.
You're not sure?
Just a little bit.
Do you guys remember what percentage of the oil from the Keystone Pipeline would have, been used in the U.S.? You guys remember? Case got it.
Zero.
So it wasn't going to help the U.S. at all to be independent from foreign oil. It was just a money making for the oil companies of pipes going through the U.S. and leaking and destroying our environment, and nothing was going to help us here.
Yeah. And wasn't the Keystone to get oil specifically from Canada?
Yeah, the dirty tar sand oil.
Yeah, the dirtiest.
And he's talking about let's produce more in the U.S. Let's build this Keystone pipeline. The two have nothing to do with each other.
Yo, you know how many clips?
He says the gas prices will go down.
Yo, I clipped like 3 different clips that we don't have time to even go through. That it's just showing propaganda. Like Fox News has been propaganda for the gas industry to reinvigorate the pipelines that Biden. Thankfully,
that's what their base. That's what their base eat up. Like their base will take those talking points, and that's why they believe that.
So, Carlito, you wanted me to play this?
Yeah. So this goes to Terrence's point about arming people and et cetera, et cetera. Go ahead.
All right, let me play this, and then time flew. I want to show at least one more clip.
Can you invade a sovereign nation? That is a war crime. I mean, I think we're at just a real basic point. Can you invade a sovereign I mean, I think we're at just a real
that's truth.
Point. Can you
Famous progressive.
That brings me to
Rice.
Yeah, no, of all people to have on the show, right? That brings me
to that's war crimes. I mean, what country has done that a bunch of times?
Well, Carlito, did you see? Oh no, you don't watch the whole show, but on last week tonight, the intro was about Ukraine, obviously, and he was talking about all the different presidents over in the U.S. who have condemned what Russia is doing, and one of them was George W. Bush. And of course, John Oliver in his sarcastic tone is like, no, stop. You of all people do not get to tweet about how bad what Russia is doing because, I mean, come on, seriously, you of all people? So he did it really well. It was a good watch.
All right, we got 3 minutes, so I'm going to fit this one in. I had to fit this one in.
John's girl.
Oh my
I had to fit this one in.
So, Congresswoman, turning now to Biden's domestic agenda, he's obviously not been able to get as much of it passed as he wanted to, thanks to Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, and the Senate filibuster. When we spoke, you and I, back in December, I asked you about the Build Back Better legislation, and you said this. Have a listen.
I do still believe that he is going to do what he told me and what he told our caucus and what he told the country he would do.
And if he doesn't?
No, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. It will hurt everybody.
Well, just to be clear, you're going to pass Build Back Better by December the 31st.
We are going to pass Build Back Better. I hope it is by December 31st. I think it will be.
Oh, my God.
But Build Back Better is now effectively dead, is it not, Congresswoman? It was declared dead on live TV by Joe Manchin just a few weeks ago.
It's painful, isn't it, to listen to that? I
You had to listen to you. It's painful.
In terms of some form, I still believe that that is possible, but obviously we have run into a real roadblock here with one senator. And my belief is still that we can pass, particularly the pieces I think that we do have some agreement around: climate change investment, $500 billion, the healthcare investments potentially, and the care economy, some pieces of the care economy. We are going to continue to push for that. I know the president is still pushing for that, but obviously it is not it's not where we want it to be. And I think we are still hopeful that there, whatever you want to call it, whatever name it is, that we will still pass a significant piece of Build Back Better. It's just not on the timeline that I had hoped for, that's for sure.
John, take it away.
Ah, man, like show me a loser strategy, and it's like I got. First of all, I put her in the same folder as Richie Torres.
Oh, really?
She's out there. She's in like the same folder as Richie Torres for me.
Yeah.
Have you? By the way, you saw Richie Torres' latest tweet? That dude is something else. But anyways, like we knew this was gonna happen. We talked about it. They gave away the only leverage that they had. So that's why I don't believe in that progressive caucus. Like, if they wanted people to believe in the progressive caucus, I definitely think she should be replaced, because she promised all this. And how what is Gabe always says, that we don't negotiate with terrorists. So like, we shouldn't have been negotiating with Cinema and then like, we had the power, we're gonna hold everything on, and we didn't use it. Like, there was times that I was like, yeah, we don't, like, we go back and forth to say we shouldn't use our power for that, but this was the one time that we had our power, we could have the vote, and we did not use it, and here we are.
Yeah,
there's nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah, you don't want to waste your leverage, and you don't want to use it for any little thing that people want. But this was one time that it was universally important, and you had a lot of leverage, and you just let it go. You just wasted it.
All right, man.
And then everybody wants, like, again, come back, like we talk about Cinema and Joe Manchin and this and that, but we were told that Mr. Biden, the greatest, he could go across the aisle. He could get Republican on board. So they don't talk about any of that, right? We only blame Cinema and Manchin.
Well, Manchin said he could get Republicans on board too, and he never did.
I did, but that's what I'm saying, though. But like, we just want to focus on the two senators. What about Joe Biden? Joe Biden said that he could go across the aisle. So why can't he get 2 or 3 Republicans to jump on? That's the whole thing that they sold us, right? He's
electable. They said we trust Biden.
Yep.
They said we trust Biden to get it done, and he's going to land the ship. And Pramila Jayapal, she put it all on Biden, and I think I have a feeling that she knew that Biden unfortunately wasn't going to get it done.
Everybody
and she had to give an excuse. Everybody knew she had to give an excuse to the Progressive Caucus. And the majority, like Barbara Lee, somebody who I really appreciate her for not voting for the Afghanistan war and all that stuff. But I think after you've been in office for so long, you just become part of it, like that monster of Congress.
We had one chance and we blew it. Yeah. Like, that was the one thing, like we talked about it, like everything else, we were holding on to use that leverage for that one chance. And this was it. And
we could talk about this clip all day, and I had many more lined up. And man, I just want to give some time on our last couple minutes. Matter of fact, we're over 9 o'clock, but I want to give a shout out. Bendone, thank you for producing the show. John, Carlito, Izzy, the usual political junkies, thank you guys so much. And special love to Terrence. You guys got to check him out. Please show him some love. He's running for the state Senate of Massachusetts. Please let us know all the socials and everything that you need to let the people know about yourself. Right?
Sure, yeah. So you can find me pretty much on most social media at Cudney4MA. That's CUDNEY, the number 4MA. I'm actually going to be starting doing a weekly live stream of my own to kind of let the people know what's going on and have some conversations. So I'll be doing a live stream on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, followed by a Twitter space right after that, so people can check it out and chat with me. I'm really looking forward to that. But thank you so much for having me on and letting me be an honorary political junkie for a day.
Appreciate it. Man, definitely. We gotta have you back. If you're on the show at least 4 times, it is official. You're PJ Terrence from then on. So hopefully we can get you back on a couple more times. And I hope you had fun. And I definitely had fun chatting with you. So we're just gonna give some shout outs to the people in the chat that came out. I know PJ Holly. I don't know if you left already, but PJ Neat is in the building. Steve Wolf Brandt, PJ Chris was in the building. I want to give a shout out to PJ Mia, even though I didn't see you in the chat, but I know you're out there. Where Pilgrim, much love to you, was in there. And there was a new person here too. Crowded Crow. Yeah, Crowded Crow, welcome and thank you for coming.
Kill it in the comments.
Hopefully we'll see you next Monday as well. And I think that's Rafael Rodriguez. Much love to you. All right, I think that's everybody. And let me give a shout out to our Patreon. Where's that at? Where's the Patreon? Do you have it, Beno? There we go. Thank you. Nancy Vancher, Pedro Hernandez, Deborah B, PJ Chris, Akabash Akita, and Zachary Guston. Thank you, everybody. Much love to y'all. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. See y'all later. Have a great week.
Join the Discord. The tweet that we show with the video, PJ put it in the Discord chat, and we're using it on the show. So go in there, have a talk with us, chat. We go back and forth all the time.
Yeah, we always chatting in the Discord. So come chat with us throughout the week. Much love to y'all. Adios.
Hey.